The Elder Scrolls franchise has been one that I've followed for quite some time, and despite the beautiful landscapes and open-world gameplay that the games have to offer, the lore is an aspect of this universe that especially intrigues me. The lore of the Elder Scrolls universe is one of the most in-depth I've ever seen, even rivaling that of J.R.R. Tolkien's Middle-earth, and as seen in this Iceberg, there's a lot to cover. Now, most of you watching probably already know what an Iceberg video is, but just a brief overview for those of you who don't. An Iceberg video is one that covers all knowledge relating to a specific topic, with the top consisting of commonly known information, and lesser known information and theories popping up the deeper you go. Now, with that being said, let's begin our deep dive into the convoluted, mysterious, and astonishing world that is the Elder Scrolls. Let's start off with an easy one. Anyone who has played the Elder Scrolls V knows this. The Companions are a faction of warriors based in Skyrim that reside within the city of Whiterun. While anyone who has proven themselves worthy can join this faction, there is an inner group of higher-ranked companions known as the Circle. Early on in the Companions' questline, it is revealed that the members of the Circle are all secretly werewolves. In the Merethic era, Skyrim was ruled by dragon priests, ancient Nords imbued with immense power by their dragon masters to uphold the religion of the dragon cult. However, these priests became greedy and ruled with an iron fist, which led to an uprising against the dragon cult, which saw the freedom and liberation of the Nords, as well as Alduin, leader of the dragons, being banished and sent forward in time into the Fourth Era. There have been 8 original divines in the mainstream imperial religion on Tamriel, but after General Tiber Septim conquered all of Tamriel and declared himself emperor at the end of the Second Era, legend says he ascended to godhood and became Talos, the 9th divine. He is worshipped as being the savior of mankind. However, the elves question whether he actually ascended to godhood. The Thalmor, a faction of militant high elves hailing from the Summerset Isles, deny his divinity, and struck a deal with the Empire to outlaw his worship following a shaky truce that was made after the Great War. This event is what is thought to have been the catalyst to the Stormcloak Rebellion. When Markarth, the capital of the Reach, was taken over by the Wild Reachmen in the early Fourth Era, the Imperials requested Jarl Ulfric Stormcloak of Windhelm to assist them in retaking the city, as Ulfric had a loyal army as well as the ability to use dragon shouts to disparage his enemies. Ulfric agreed on the condition that he and his allies could worship Talos without persecution from the Empire or the Thalmor, to which the Empire agreed. However, once the city was taken back and put under Imperial rule, Ulfric was betrayed and was arrested. Of course, a theory like this would exist considering both franchises were created by Bethesda Softworks. This theory is based on an Easter egg found in Fallout 4, where an item called Experimental Plant is found in a biolab. As you can see, this experimental plant looks nearly identical to the Nirnroot, an alchemical plant that you can find in the Elder Scrolls games. The Psijic Order is an organization of highly advanced mages who have the ability to slow and reverse time for brief periods. They are a very secretive order that reside on the Isle of Artaeum, an island that was once a part of the Summerset Isles, but has since physically been removed and placed into its own realm. While the Psijics normally keep to themselves, they have been known to interfere on certain events throughout history. This includes the Daedric invasion of Summerset during the Second Era, as well as the Eye of Magnus crisis of Winterhold in the Fourth Era. Despite the franchise being named after the scrolls themselves, the Elder Scrolls are rarely ever seen or discussed within the lore. These artifacts are said to exist outside of time and space, as they are known to disappear and cease to exist at random, making the number of recorded Elder Scrolls to be constantly changing. The Elder Scrolls themselves are said to contain information and prophecies regarding the past, present, and future, as well as alternate realities within the universe. The Grey Cowl is an artifact of the Daedric Prince Nocturnal. Wearing it will replace the wearer's identity with that of the legendary thief known as the Grey Fox. There is also a curse on the mask that will erase the wearer's previous identity for a period of time, even when they take it off. The Grey Fox was a legendary master thief who was given the Grey Cowl of Nocturnal. The Grey Fox is also the persona given to whomever wears the Grey Cowl. By far one of the most talked about mysteries within the Elder Scrolls fandom, the Dwemer's disappearance has led to numerous theories regarding what happened to the ancient race. Dwemer, also known as Deep Elves or Dwarves, were a technologically advanced civilization that lived underneath the provinces of Skyrim, Morrowind, Hammerfell, and even the western reach of High Rock within massive strongholds that remain to this day. The ancient race disappeared during the events of the Battle of Red Mountain in the late First Era. Red Mountain, the towering volcano found on the island of Vardenfell, contained the legendary Heart of Lorkhan, a god who is believed to have been responsible for creating the mortal realm. When a Dwemer scientist named Kagranak used 3 immensely powerful tools on the heart during the battle, all Dwemer across Tamriel instantaneously disappeared. There is actually a Dwemer you can encounter in the Elder Scrolls III named Diagram Bagarn, who explains he was on a different plane of existence when the Battle of Red Mountain had taken place. There has still been no clear evidence or explanation provided on what happened to the Dwemer to this day. This theory comes from the Thalmor dossier on Ulfric that you can acquire on your mission infiltrating the Thalmor embassy during the events of the Elder Scrolls V. The journal, which was written by a Thalmor agent while they were interrogating Ulfric, indicates how Ulfric's Stormcloak is considered to be a major asset to them. It is believed that Ulfric was intentionally released from custody and planted by the Thalmor to further weaken the Empire following the end of the Great War. In a book found in both the Elder Scrolls IV and the Elder Scrolls V, titled Dwemer History and Culture, it is stated that an author named Marobar Sol may have likely been a pseudonym for Gorfalim, another author. The book suggests that this theory is most likely true, as well as suggests that Gorfalim goes by other pseudonyms as well. This stems from a tweet made by the Elder Scrolls Online claiming Cyrodiil was once a massive jungle when in fact it was just a small transcription error by the writers. The error quickly became a meme amongst fans as a way to describe various inconsistencies that are found within the lore and the games. The Elder Scrolls Online went along with this meme, as they included a jungle version of Cyrodiil that briefly appears as an alternate reality during the Sanctum of Phidia dungeon. The Levitation Act was a piece of imperial legislation created in the Third Era that restricted the use of levitation magic. Regardless, the Mages Guild would still sell tomes that taught such spells. The wizards of House Telvanni and Morrowind would still use levitation magic, as it was necessary for them to use in order to move around their giant mushroom towers. Potema Septim was the Queen of Solitude in the mid-Third Era, whose obsession with power drew her to attempt to topple the Empire, gaining her the reputation as one of the most dangerous necromancers in all of Tamriel. It's implied in the book Biography of the Wolf Queen that her madness was so infectious that it carried on to take over the mind of Pelagius Septim III, who took up residence in the Blue Palace after her death, earning him the nickname Pelagius the Mad. The Great Collapse of Winterhold was a cataclysmic event that occurred in the year 122 of the Fourth Era, around 79 years before the events of the Elder Scrolls V. It is said that the northern seas came alive, ravaging the coast on which the city of Winterhold was located. Soon after, the entire city collapsed into the ocean, save for a few buildings, the Jarl's Longhouse, and the Mage's College, which strangely enough was barely affected by the disaster. You can still see the after effects of the Great Collapse when playing the Elder Scrolls V, and asking the locals about what happened, they expressed suspicion towards the college's involvement.
Just about 80 years ago, there was a terrible disaster. The cliffs overlooking the Sea of Ghosts collapsed, taking most of Winterhold with them. In the middle of it all, the college was practically untouched. Many of the survivors were suspicious. Some believed the mages were behind the whole thing, and others felt they could have at least prevented it.
Contrary to the locals' beliefs, the mages deny having any involvement in the event, rather suggesting that the eruption of the Red Mountain volcano in Vardenfell could have caused after effects that led to the collapse, despite Red Mountain erupting 117 years prior. The existence of firearms in the Elder Scrolls is non-existent. However, there are dialogue and text throughout the series that hint at them potentially existing. Fireworks and other explosives do exist in the form of alchemically crafted substances and advanced destruction spells. The Chimer were a race of gold-skinned elves who were the first to split from the High Elves due to a difference in worship, as the Altmer worshipped Aedra, or divine beings, and the Chimer worshipped the antithesis, known as the Daedra. They settled in Resdain, which was later renamed Morrowind, where they coexisted with the Dwemer, occasionally falling into conflict with them and the neighboring Nords of Skyrim. After the disappearance of the Dwemer, the leading tribunal went against their king's wishes and used Kagranak's tools on the heart of Lorkhan themselves, which allowed them to gain immense godlike powers, declaring themselves the new living gods of Morrowind. The Daedric prince Azura punished the Chimer for changing their way of worship, ashening their skin and turning their eyes blood red, cursing the once gold-skinned Chimer to now walk the land as the dark-skinned Dark Elves. This is a name that refers to Lorkhan, the being responsible for the creation of Mundus, the mortal realm. He is also regarded as the savior or hero god of the old Nordic pantheon. Following the creation of Mundus, the elven hero Trinimac killed Lorkhan out of spite for forcing the other divines to weaken their power, in helping him with his creation. Akatosh, the leading divine, then shot Lorkhan's heart into the Mundus, where it landed and formed a massive caldera around it, which later became known as the Red Mountain. This theory has actually spouted from a retcon that was created with the introduction of the Elder Scrolls Online. Crassius Curio is a nobleman that you can encounter while playing the Elder Scrolls III. He also claims to be the author of an infamous and fan-favorite pornographic novel called The Lusty Argonian Maid. While previously, the book was believed to have been written around the time the events of Elder Scrolls III take place, the book has since made an appearance in ESO, which takes place 700 years prior, long before Curio was born. This has led to widespread speculation that Crassius in fact plagiarized the story for self-profit. To further muddy the waters, lifts her tale, the Argonian maid in the novel actually makes an appearance in the Argonian crafting motif book found in ESO. The Dragon Cult was the ruling faction in ancient Skyrim during the Morathic era prior to the events of the Dragon War. Remnants of the once terrifying cult can be found in Nordic barrows that can be explored in the Elder Scrolls V and the Elder Scrolls Online. King Lalu Helseth is the king of Mournhold and son of the famous Baron Zaya, Morrowind's first queen. He took up the mantle of king after his great-uncle passed away, and while there is no clear evidence that confirms it, many believe that Helseth had a hand in his death. It is commonly believed that Helseth either poisoned Lethen or hired assassins to take him out, the latter of which is most possible as he contracts the Dark Brotherhood to assassinate the player multiple times during the events of the Elder Scrolls III's Tribunal expansion. This is a clear reference to satanic ritual abuse, which arose during the Satanic Panic of the 1980s. This, specifically, is in relation to Molag Bal's Daughters of Cold Harbor ritual, which females undergo if they wish to become a pure-blooded vampire. A ritual that, I might add, Serana, a survivor found in Skyrim, has stated that not many live through. Molag Bal himself will brutally assault, torture, and maim the individual in the ritual for a number of days to the point of death, where he then uses necromancy to bring them back from the brink, only to force them to drink his blood, where they are then deemed pure blood. While that's the only example out there, it can also be assumed that other Daedric rituals that are done with malicious intent could involve mental or physical tolls, as well as self-infliction. The Monomyth is an in-game lore book regarding the creation myths of the universe as seen by the different races and pantheons in the Elder Scrolls universe. The two moons seen at night when playing any of the games impact the mortal realm in many ways. The most notable is their ability to influence what a Khajiit's appearance will become when they age into adulthood. These can range from Khajiit being small and kitten-like, to bipedal humanoids, to large, muscled battle cats that can be ridden as mounts. The Khajiit's appearance is declared based on which lunar phase they are born under. When the Thalmor overthrew the government of Summerset, Ultmer who refused or disagreed with their supremacist beliefs fled to seek refuge in other provinces. A group of Ultmer were able to set up in the city of Sentinel in Hammerfell. However, the Thalmor hunted them down and killed them all. This event was dubbed the Night of the Green Flames, referencing the magic that was used in the attack. Indoril Nerevar was the king of the Chimer who died during the Battle of Red Mountain. While some accounts mention he was killed by his friend Vorin Dagoth, many hold the belief that the Tribunal, three of Nerevar's closest allies, were the ones who murdered him. This theory holds weight, as Nerevar was opposed to using Kagranuk's tools in any way, to which the Tribunal did so anyway, which led them to become living gods. There are also several implications found that this was the case in the lorebooks and ambiguous statements from Vivek, one of the Tribunal, in the Elder Scrolls III. Heartstones are a unique ore found in Morrowind that hold the ability to give life to magical constructs and people. They are believed to originate from Red Mountain, and it is theorized that their formation is due to the molten lava interacting with the heart of Lorkhan before it solidifies. An abundance of the ore was found on Solstheim after the eruption of Red Mountain, which caused an infestation of creatures called Ash Spawn, who were given sentience from the Heartstones. The White-Gold Concordat was a treaty signed between the Empire and the Thalmor as the result of a stalemate during the Great War. This resulted in a continent-wide ban on Talos worship, as well as imperial territory handed over to the Aldmeri Dominion, as well as a mass execution of all the Emperor's personal bodyguards, the Blades. This theory suggests that someone within the high ranks of the Empire could have been behind the catalyst that caused the events of the Elder Scrolls IV. The idea traces back to the first Elder Scrolls game, where the Emperor's battle mage was secretly impersonating the Emperor until the player stops them. The battle mage also worked alongside Mehrunes Dagon, the main antagonist of the Elder Scrolls IV. The Nerevarine is the protagonist and player character of the Elder Scrolls III. Their backstory is that they were a prisoner before being recruited by the Blades and getting shipped off to the island of Vardenfell, where the game begins. Maik the Liar is an Easter egg character that has appeared in every Elder Scrolls game since the release of Elder Scrolls III. He is a male Khajiit that often breaks the fourth wall when engaged in conversation, sometimes dropping Bethesda inside jokes or commenting on game bugs that have become memes. A number of theories have spawned during the years, such as suggesting he's a god or the fact that he's a descendant of a long lineage of Khajiit, also named Maik. It's unsure which Camoran's son is referenced, as there are many. One is King Camoran of Sentinel's son, who was murdered by his own father, who saw him as an unfit successor to the throne. Another could be referring to Mankar Camoran, who is the secondary antagonist of the Elder Scrolls IV, and is the son of the King of Valenwood, or even Mankar's own son, Raven. Lord Woodbourne, a noble from Wayrest in the Third Era, secretly murdered King Lysandus of Daggerfall. Gothred, Lysandus' son, was then crowned as the next king of Daggerfall. An investigation into the murder later reveals that Gothred had conspired with Woodbourne to murder his father. Bar Dow is the giant rock that is seen floating above Vivec City. The general belief is that the rock was a meteor that was thrown at the city by the Daedric prince Sheogorath, to which Vivec used his godly powers to halt the rock, which positioned itself directly above the city. A popular fan theory is that Vivec secretly threw the rock himself and stopped it as a display of power and a warning to the people of what could happen if they stopped worshipping him as a god. This is a quest in the Elder Scrolls V that reveals that the Forsworn, a faction of the remaining Reachmen in Skyrim, are being used by the wealthy Silverblood family to silence their enemies and business competitors. The Arcturian Heresy is an in-game book that provides an alternate account of Tiber Septim's conquest of Tamriel that deviates from the official Imperial history books. It is said that the book reveals the truth of Septim's exploits during his conquest. This is a theory proposed by an in-game scholar in the lore book titled The Faerie, who suggests that elves actually lie along the hierarchical Faerie Chain, which is a spectrum that ranks numerous creatures based on level of intelligence. This was considered controversial, as elves would be ranked amongst beings such as Nixads, Spriggans, and Nereids. This is a term referring to a historical event in the First Era where time was broken and no longer flowed in a linear format. It is commonly believed that this chaos of fractured time lasted for approximately 1008 years. However, in the archive titled The Dragon Break, the author Faldrune speculates that the Alessian Year lasted around 150 years, as opposed to 1008. This book's existence is ironic in that it appears in the Elder Scrolls III, yet refers to the events that happen in the Elder Scrolls IV in the past tense. It's important to note that Faldrune is an anagram for Darn Fool. The Ayleids are an extinct race of elves that resided most notably in the province of Cyrodiil. They were wiped out in a slave rebellion as a result of enslaving the Needs, human predecessors to the Bretons and Imperials. Many of their ruins can be found throughout Tamriel as seen in the Elder Scrolls IV, the Elder Scrolls Online, and the mobile game Elder Scrolls Blades. In the Khajiit pantheon, it's stated that the Khajiit and Wood Elves originated from the same species, but were separated by Azura, who is acknowledged by the Khajiit, and Ylfur, the forest god who the Wood Elves worship. During the human conquest on Tamriel, the being known as Pelinal Whitestrake was documented as slaughtering the Khajiit almost to the point of extinction due to him mistaking them for elves. This could render an entire video of its own, but in simplicity, the Annued refers to the documentation of the creation of the Elder Scrolls universe and Tamriel itself from the perspectives of the different pantheons. The Sixth House, also known as House Dagoth, was once the sixth great house faction in Morrowind. Its members were either slaughtered or absorbed into the other five houses following its leader, Borin Dagoth's betrayal of Indoril Nerevar, despite the house being wiped from history. There are accounts that Dark Elves who share lineage with the house hear whispers of Dagoth himself. Many times these whispers cause the person to murder those around them, or to simply go insane. While the cult was most active during the events of the Elder Scrolls III, in the Elder Scrolls Online they can be encountered in the caverns near the foot of the Red Mountain. The 7,000 steps that the player climbs to High Hrothgar in the Elder Scrolls V is not actually 7,000 steps high. This was most likely due to the models and limitations at the time. However, some have theorized that many of the steps have withered away with time, as on the pathway up the mountain there are empty patches where the stairs should be. Drayven Indoril is supposedly the Nightingale who stole the Staff of Chaos for the Emperor's battle mage Jagar Tharn, which is the catalyst for the events of the Elder Scrolls I. Other accounts suggest that Tharn was the one to find the staff himself. To make matters even more complicated, Lawrence Schick, a Bethesda lore master, has been on record stating that neither theories are true. The Hero of Kvatch is the title given to the player character in The Elder Scrolls IV. At the end of the game's Shivering Isles DLC, which centers around the Daedric Prince of Madness, Sheogorath, the player sets the Daedric Prince Jiggalag free from being trapped as the Mad God, to which Jiggalag assigns the player the position of becoming the new Sheogorath. It is commonly accepted and believed that the Sheogorath encountered in The Elder Scrolls V is in fact the player character from the previous game.
How rude!
This is further backed up with dialogue where Sheogorath references being there when mentioning the Oblivion Crisis.
You are the best septum that's ever ruled. Well, except for that Martin fella. But he turned into a dragon god, and that's hardly sporting. You know, I was there for that whole sordid affair. Marvelous time. Butterflies, blood, a fox, a severed head, ho ho ho, and the cheese!
The Bloodmoon Prophecy is a legend told by the Skald, an offshoot group of Nords that reside on the island of Solstheim that foretells the coming of Hircine's great hunt. The hunt is preceded by 4 signs: the Hounds, which involve werewolves appearing on the island, the Fire from the Eye of Glass, where a pillar of fire appears on the surface of a frozen lake, the Tide of Woe, where masses of dead Horkers wash ashore on the northern coast, and finally, the Blood Moon, where the smaller of Tamriel's 2 moons appears crimson red. Versailles was the potentate of the Second Empire following the assassination of Emperor Raymond III. An in-game fiction series suggests that the potentate arranged for the assassination, or even carried it out directly himself. The Thalmor are the remnants of the now disgraced Snow Elves. While the Snow Elves were once elegant and beautiful beings of the north, near extinction and years of living in complete darkness underneath Skyrim due to Dwemer enslavement turned them into blind, twisted, goblin-like creatures. After the Dwemer's disappearance, the Thalmor would make the abandoned ruins and caves their home, leading to colonies that are found all throughout the darkest corners of Skyrim's deadliest caverns, most notably those of Blackreach. While it is confirmed these Thalmor hives exist, it is speculated that they may be much bigger and much more organized than previously recorded, to the point where an underground society of Thalmor exists. The book Vampires of Vardenfell Volume 2, which contains information on a cure for vampirism, is banned by the Tribunal Temple. There is no explanation as to why, as the first volume in the series is not banned. While Emperor Titus Mede II was already an unlikable character, the introduction to what happened towards the end of the Great War in the Elder Scrolls Legends revealed that before the Battle of the Red Ring, the Emperor was wounded and instead elected the player to impersonate him on the battlefield. The author Phaedrus Lair theorized that the ancient Altmer on Summerset would use goblins as enslaved soldiers for their army. During the events of the Elder Scrolls Online, it's heavily implied that goblins were commonly used by the Altmer as slaves for a number of purposes. The Cloven Duality refers to a theory presented in the lore book The Lunar Lorcan, which suggests that the 2 moons are actually the sundered corpse of the missing god Lorcan, rather than 2 separate entities. It should also be noted that, like with the Alessian Year, this theory was proposed by Faldrune. The Altmer, or High Elves as they're normally called, are a race that embraces the idea that their race is the most pure and godlike in comparison to any other. An Imperial scholar who once visited the Summerset Isles reported that he witnessed the Altmer killing certain babies for the purpose of eugenics to preserve their purity. These claims, however, were never proven and are speculated as being anti-Elven propaganda. Confessions of a Khajiit Fur Trader is a book written by a Khajiit merchant who trades furs and other mementos. The Dark Confession reveals that he also actively murders other Khajiit and Argonians and sells their skins on the black market. In the Murkmire expansion for the Elder Scrolls Online, the player can investigate and discover that a poacher hiding in the swamp is killing and skinning local Argonians for fun, which may be a reference to the lore book. This refers to how the Greybeards are hiding the true identity of their leader Paarthurnax, who is later revealed during the Elder Scrolls V's main questline to be a dragon. The island of Summerset is the largest island in the province of the Summerset Isles, and is home to an abundance of many unique magical creatures, such as Nixads, Griffins, Welwa, and Indrix, just to name a few. The Book of Fate is a book found in the Elder Scrolls V that the player can find in Calixto's House of Curiosities in Windhelm. According to Calixto, the contents of the book are different for every reader. The book is empty upon the player reading it, which is said to signify an uncertain fate or an imminent death. Artaeum is a small island that is considered to be a part of the Summerset Isles. It is the home of the mystical organization of the Psijic Order, and due to the Order's secretive nature, the island has been known to appear and disappear many times throughout history due to traveling in and out of its own dimension. The theory that giants and orcs may be related is due to the Skyrim models of both species having bony protrusions on their upper brows. This has led fans to speculate that both species may share a common ancestor. The Star Wound is an alternative name given to the Heart of Lorkhan. This also has given the province of Morrowind the nickname the Star-Wounded East. Amaund Motierre is a character encountered in the Elder Scrolls V's Dark Brotherhood questline, where he gives the player a contract to assassinate Emperor Titus Mede II. It is suggested and hinted at in-game that Motierre may secretly be a member of the Elder Council, the council that helps advise the Emperor of Cyrodiil, and wants the Emperor dead to gain more power. Karthwasten is a small settlement located in a canyon on the border of the Reach. There was an alleged massacre led by the Stormcloaks that took place in the small town at the beginning of the Stormcloak Rebellion. Oddly enough, it is never mentioned besides for one line of dialogue during the quest, Season Unending. We've now reached the very bottom of our first tier in this massive iceberg. I'm sure many of you are still very confused by some of the subjects that were covered, so if you have any questions or would like to see me do a more in-depth video on something on this list that interests you, feel free to leave it in the comments section below. While we covered aspects of the Elder Scrolls lore that were unique, interesting, and strange, we have only scraped the very exterior. If you guys found what was covered today to be obscure, then you cannot fathom what other secrets lie beneath the surface.